Hello everyone, it's the Kill Team Casuals. We're here. I've now turned my microphone on, which is fantastic.
Boom.
That will make it that you can hear me. And we are very, very excited. We've got lots to talk about today. And that man groaning at the fact that he can hear my beautiful voice is, of course, Ben from Battle Brothers Tabletop.
That's me. What's up, boys? I'm back from vacation. I'm feeling rejuvenated, ready to leave again. A world traveler, and by world traveler I mean American traveler, going to Adepticon, and which is, let's be honest, it's the meaningful world, America. Pass it over to Russ from GFN Gaming.
I'm here. Yeah, I never know what to say. I need to come up with some sort of funky intro for myself, don't I? I need to. I'm gonna start trying. I'm gonna send you some videos. Give me some.
Drop a fun fact.
Fun fact. Yeah, I like that.
I'm Russ, and I'm here to say.
Yeah.
I like pickled eggs
I need to
in a
rap
major
it.
way.
I'm rapping as well. Okay, so this is a new one. So I've got to rap a fun fact about myself.
Please.
Yeah, that's your new thing.
That's what
you can have that. That one's for free.
Wow.
that one's that one's on me.
Wow. Okay. So I'm Russ. No, I can't. That wasn't rapping in there. So I can't do the rap. I was gonna say I could do like the the Captain Kirk rap. You know the
spoken word.
The spoken word. So I'm not gonna do that.
You panicked here, Russ. This has gone awful.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it's gonna have to be. I can't do the rap. You know, as soon as I think about doing the rap, I'm going into an American accent in my head. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
The American in the room says he won't be offended. It's fine.
Yeah, I promise. I promise.
I'm Russ, and not to be bitchy, but I'm wearing a jumper that's not making me itchy. Over to Reese. From Threes to Wound. I didn't do that in American accent, did I? I realized after all that
preamble. Dude. Pretty good.
That was pretty clean. Good. Look at that.
It took a while to get there, but the payoff was well worth it, I think.
It took some while. So now Reese is going to yodel a fun fact about himself.
Well, it's more, I was about to say, that's all we have time for today, Russ, because
I took so long getting into that.
So we'll call this episode The Saga of the Itchy Jumper, to itch or not.
This one isn't. Last week, Itchy Jumper. This
thank
one,
goodness.
not itchy, yeah.
And that's why you join the Kill Team Casuals, not to hear about
kind
Kill
of stuff
Team.
you asked for.
But this is a big hello to everyone in the chat. We are, of course, if you're listening on the podcast, we always record live. So g'day to Dr. Zero Hour. We've got Drone. We've got Samoan Matt. We've got Razor Dawn. Thank you so much for joining us live. We're also now
all
live
my favorites
on YouTube as well. Primaris Painter, just subscribed again, 18 months in a row. Thank you so much, Primaris
18
Painter.
months?
18. I didn't even know the show had been going for that long. I thought that was just Russ's rap, but we're still here. And Primaris Painter got to enjoy all of that, and he paid for it.
I'm so sorry.
I love it.
It's rough.
I'm done. It's hot out here. Is it hot in here, Russ? Is it hot in here?
It is warm.
Non-itchy jumper. It is pretty hot.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
tasty.
Today's a big day because we finally get to talk about. We can hold the book up now and go Blood and Zeal.
We're bringing the books out.
We're bringing books out. Thank you so much to Games Workshop for sending us advanced copies so we can talk about this and talk. I guess bring the casuals touch to this, because obviously everyone out there, there's a lot of videos out there which are all fantastic and worth checking out. But we know you've been waiting for the casuals. The casual
I've not seen any of those videos. Anyway.
and if you weren't thinking about switching off to watch them, don't do it. Don't do it. You can go to them after this. What I guess the first question I wanted to ask, obviously, we had all the sneak peeks, the teasers. Now we've got it in our hot little hands. What do you guys think of this box set? What were your first thoughts before we dive into the teams? Just your overall feel. Ben, kick us off.
Wow.
Oh man, I am all about this box, dude. This is one of the, to me, most appealing boxes that I think has come out in recent history. I love, from just a optics standpoint, I'm a little chaos simp. I love that kind of stuff. So a World Eaters adjacent team is very cool. I think this team, we're going to see lots of pretty sweet conversions. I think there's tons of conversion potential here, which I love with bloodletters and different things like that. And then also, like, just I think I have a video dropping probably tomorrow where I say this a lot of the same things, but actually, no, I take it back. I'm actually going to be saying lots of very different things to what I say here. So you really need to watch both. You really need to watch both of them to really get the full shebang. You know what I mean?
All that's going to happen is Ben's going to put his intro music over this and then crop it down to just his, and that's going to be. You know what? Actually, Ben, I've actually got a video where I say it's going to sound like a lot like what I bring to this one as well. So yeah.
Really.
But still watch it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm efficient. I'm pretty efficient. But anyways, and then the other team, the Sanctifiers, are just I think they're the grimmest, darkest team we've ever seen. Like these people are up to some bad stuff. Like just grim, dark, gothic church, like deviants. Like I think it looks really, really cool. And then both teams are very strong. Shocker. They're both very good. And I like it. But I do think it is perhaps a little heavy-handed, but whatever. That's what I think. How about you, Russ?
Yeah, I think you said everything.
I'm good.
But but you haven't wrapped everything.
This mouth is just for show.
Yeah. No, I think I think you're right. I think both teams are pretty powerful, in their own different ways. They both feel like quite mid-range to close-range teams, but they've got man alive, some of the operatives alone are some of the, if some real good I'm a big fan of the Gore mongers. I've had a game already, very good team. It feels like these Sanctifiers do feel like they're going to be a slow burn, like late winning everything kind of team. It's going to take people a while to get used to all those auras. But the Goremongers are going to be pick up and play good. I think they're going to be strong from the get-go. Whereas I think you'll have if you're playing this down your local shop, you're going to have a couple of good games into your Sanctifier buddy until he gets it, and then just stop playing him. Just stop playing that guy. It's going to be rough. But I'm sure there'll be counters. I think I've not seen them into elites yet. Although I think they seem pretty strong into everyone, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, great teams. You know what? I've not played with the new rules in terms of the new cards, but a real interesting way of maybe a new way to play the game, which I'm always keen. I was a little bit late to adopt the Wrecker brutal and cunning terrain rules, but I played a game really fun. So I'm actually kind of keen to give those new cards a go. See if they add a different element. I think the G-Dub suggesting drop kill op, drop tack op, and just run these new Blood and Zeal cards. So I think I'm going to give it a go. See if it sounds like a good way to play. How about you, Reese? What's your favorite thing about the box?
Yeah, I think it's Ben was spot on there on the noggin there.
He stole all the good lines, didn't he?
All the good stuff. No, but the Sanctifiers
don't pass to me first. I'm saying, don't pass to me first.
Lesson learned, Russ. You're next. No, but the Sanctifiers are that team that I didn't expect in the box set. But they're definitely one of in terms of if you love the lore, if you love all the stuff and the grimdark aspect, they're just such a cool kit, and along with now what you've seen with the Inquisitorial team as well and the models that came in that, there's some really cool kit bashing stuff you can do with a lot of Imperial teams thanks to this box set.
Yeah, that was an interesting way of rephrasing exactly what Ben said already.
Thanks,
cheers, Ben. Thanks for that, Ben.
I've made it sort of my own. And now, Russ, to talk about what you were talking about, I also think the cards are a very interesting aspect as well. As someone who plays obviously a bit of 40k as well, I love how you have things like the Leviathan card decks and Prior Nexus card decks that add that element of randomness. And we talked about our love of scatter dice and things that can shake a game up, to make it not be I'm going to turn up, these are the things I'm going to do, and this is probably how the game will go. Things that can change objectives or pump up characters or change what you expect or you think you're going to get, I think is really, really good in a game. So I'm definitely looking forward to giving them a go as well. So I'm really proud of myself for using a point that you both made and rewording it slightly.
Hey, you did a good job.
You did a great job. For those out there that maybe have ordered this box and maybe are watching at a later date where they have received this box but they haven't yet opened the Blood and Zeal cards to even look at what they say or do or how they affect the game. In a brief summary, what would you say to somebody? What would you say to somebody who hasn't opened the cards and doesn't know what they do?
Open the cards. No.
Find out what they do. How would I explain it to them?
I don't know. What do these cards do? I don't know. I haven't cracked them.
It depends entirely on how you like to play the game. Because I think for 99% of the people, you're just going to say, don't even worry about it. Like, quite a lot of people won't even bother. If you're any sort of competitive play, there's no need to touch these cards. I doubt very much they'll make it to competitive games. I don't know. I don't know if... You see, G-Dubs recommends not taking Kill Op and Tac Op with it. I don't know that they're better or more fun than playing Tac Op. I think it's a lot more chaosy, though, as Reese said. The scatter, it's a lot more... Randomness. Yeah, so I think it is... It's stuff like... it ties in together with the big statue. So it's an interesting way of... A new way of playing it. So you put the statue down, and then during certain points during a game, you will draw like 3 Zeal cards, 3 Blood cards, and you pick one up. And if every time you can use those rules, you can basically score the card. So you're scoring cards versus... It's a good replacement for Kill Op. So I would say, if you're pretty au fait with the rules, keep Tac Op, get rid of Kill Op, and run the cards if you want to run the cards. Because it is basically, I score more than you on Blood, I score more than you on Zeal. So it's kind of like decent enough that so you can be like, I've scored more Blood cards. So if you see your opponents doing, Zeal cards, you can be like, well, I need to get one more than him on Zeal and one more than him on Blood, or them on Blood, and you can kind of win. So I see what they mean, because it is technically 2, but...
And the different decks represent different kinds of effects on the game. So there's like the Blood is obviously aggressive, going to give you help you attacking and fighting, and Zeal's obviously protection and other like shenanigans on that side. So there's 2 sides. So you might go, if you're playing Gore mongers, you might be wanting to lean heavily into the attack thing, or you might even go, actually, we've already got lots of aggression and attack. I'm already good at it. So what I need is the healing and the protection that the other. I need some faith in
goddamn faith.
So it's a good little juxtaposition, and that thing of obviously the one that where as you play these cards throughout the game, they obviously give your team benefits, but then obviously you are rewarded for playing them with not just the benefit but potentially scoring victory points as well. So and then the shrine basically it gives an extra element of enhancing it by either letting you praise or blaspheme or hallow or defile those little extra things to allow either draw extra cards or power them up. Or I think it's play 2 instead. I think if you praise, blaspheme.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
I really like the statue.
Remove a card from your hand or discard pile to draw a new one. So letting you swap up if you've got something that's not helping you, being able to discard.
Because you can only score it if you actually use it.
Yeah.
So,
I really like the statue. I think it's a piece that could actually be useful in. Whereas sometimes the extras don't get used a ton. I think the big statue is actually a really cool and fun addition. That I think as we need more heavy. Like we need we have enough heavy, but
there's a lot going on.
It is such a cool piece that I'm willing to, I can sacrifice 2 pieces of heavy in the center for this one, and I think it's really cool. I love it.
It's cool. I'd love them to do more of like the same scale, like a guardsman statue of them, like a space marine, all that would have to be ridiculously big, but I really like the idea.
Yeah, I like thinking it with the terrain beyond just this is an Imperial ruined building. Anything that gets us a little bit of variation. Like I think so it still have different traits and all that, but it doesn't have to have special abilities that impact the game. But just that visual aesthetic of looking different and creating interesting and dynamic battlefields, I think is really, really cool as well. So let's jump in and have a bit of a look at the teams. And I guess we're not going to man reads book. We're sort of just going to pick out some things.
Men reads book.
It's multiple different. Men reads. Men v book. So we're going to we're going to give out some of our highlights, things we really like, and maybe some little things we've already picked up. Obviously, getting to be hands on with it helps a little bit. That it's beyond just reading the rules. But let's start with those chaosy boys, the Gore mongers themselves. Have your books on standby. Yes, very
The
nice.
mongers of Gore.
I certainly have my book, fellas, right here in front of me.
You build that statue. So one thing I want to
Got it
talk
all
about
right here.
that's with these teams is the question that always I find is the Goremongers a one box kill team? Does this one set of troops get you everything you need to?
I mean, technically, no.
So
yeah, that's I think that's an interesting one.
Russ might be uninitiated to, you guys can never hope to be as plugged in as I am to the community. I'm a man of the people. I'm plugged in 24/7. All it took was sacrificing my relationship with my wife and my kids to be constantly on Discord. But I see what the people are saying. I see it was worth it. It was a worthwhile trade. I see what the people are saying. And there's a lot of discourse about running a bunch of aspirants instead of the people or the specialists. But I think the specialists are good, man. And I think the one that makes sense to me to drop is you drop the house climber chick into the dark for an aspirant.
Yeah, the stalker. Because the stalker, there's no way into the dark for you to get the relentless. The house climber.
The corn house climber.
Corn house climber, yeah.
And I told you it's all right here. All right here. Yeah. That's what they call it in this book, is the corn. I think my personal opinion is it's basically a one-box team. And if you want to be a crazy person, you can run a bunch of aspirants. But in a team with so few ranged options, I think you're gonna want that harpoon gun. I think actually has a lot of tech and a lot of fun.
The
Impale
is a good one, yeah.
Dude, cool.
Because I've heard a lot of people say that for them is the flex unit that you don't need. They're like, do I want that for a special ability that might do something, and the shooting's not great.
It's a good shooting though.
Pretty good though.
It's like hits on
pretty
threes.
Yeah, 4 attacks on 3s, 4/5. Like, here's the thing. What gets me is
how good that shooting is.
Yeah. What surprises me is that other teams would be on their knees praying for this operative. If they could have a 4/5 harpoon gun, other teams would sacrifice their their left hand to get the harpoon guy on their team. And so I think he's actually really good, and people just see the blood and go, I want more aspirants, but I think he's actually pretty good most of the time.
The blood. It's very thematic that's where their heads are at.
And you think about the application of what is that? A Space Marine, a 4 APL Space Marine icon bearer on a point? Yoink, not anymore. I think I'll take that back. So I think there's just lots of play there that people aren't thinking about.
Is it adding tech to a team that people don't want to be techie? Is that maybe why there's a little?
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe people just see red.
Yeah.
They just want that ability to charge. After they've charged.
That's what the Goremonger gets. I think the reason a lot of people like the Goremonger aspirant is because it's got obsessive bloodlust, which means that if it ends a fight, basically you can charge charge or move, or charge or reposition for 2 inches after. So potentially double fights, double kills, moving into a bit of safety. Quite versatile, and the basic stat line of these guys is very powerful. It's very good.
Oh yeah.
I mean, one of the most enjoyable things I found from the team is that technically everyone's a shooting unit if you use the chain wrists, their wrist chains. You get within 2 inches and you just throw your chain glaive at someone, 4 attacks hitting on 3, 4, 5 rending, and it's just sort of hang on, this team's real good at shooting if you need them to be once per turning point.
Especially
now, imagine that on the Skull Taker. Skull Claimer. 5/6. You want to throw that chain axe around? 4 attacks on 3s, 5/6 damage, dude. Even if all you get is 1 hit through, that's a bad day.
It doesn't get brutal. I think it says it drops brutal, but even still, 5/6 damage is
raw stats.
Very nice. Yeah,
I am surprised that there's no penalty to hit with that.
Yeah, it's just your melee weapon becomes.
Don't ruin
it. Don't give them any ideas. Don't give them any ideas.
Yeah, I don't want them to move that. But
I was just suggesting maybe -1. I just think that's...
No.
Imagine trying to throw those giant chain glaive weapons. It's just swinging it over your head. Be like, man, I've been practicing this all day.
Yeah.
This is going to go so well.
I'm not gonna lie, it did make it like I played a game and they became crazy reliable, like once per turn, because you've only got 8 operatives and you got the impaler shoots. Again, you've got no long range. Your max range is 8 inches, even with your impaler. So you're talking about taking someone off. You've got to be moving in drones, but you got quite a lot of maneuverability with your shooting because you've all got 7-inch movements. You can all make yourself 3 APL for a move and a dash. You've got a built-in DACA dash operative in the Inciter.
Yeah.
No, is it the Inciter? Yeah. So the Inciter can move and then dash and shoot at 2 APL. I mean, they've got some crazy like maneuverability shoot, and his shooting's what range 8 against Ceaseless, devastating 1, rending. Bad damage, but with that devastating 1 and rending, you get a crit. You've done 2 mortal wounds. I mean, 2-5.
And then the important thing is, once you do any damage, so even the mortals will proc it. That operative is then bleeding. And so now you can then fill up your Gore tanks from that operative within 8 inches, which is pretty cool. Which is another way to get somebody up to full or something.
So cool thematically too that like the person's been cut and bleeding, and all the other like little goremongers are like little meerkats standing up like he's got blood. Get it, put it in my tank.
Yeah, the thematic the thematics for this team is so good. I have a question for you guys because I've been hearing it said many, many different ways all over the web. I think it's going to be the new mispronounced word in all of Kill Team. What do you call their blood tank ability? They have 6 of them.
Sanguivitae.
How would you pronounce it? Yeah, I think that's the only way to say it, right?
I've now seen enough phonetically said things that I'm very confident I can still get it wrong. That's where I'm at.
I believe in you. I believe in you, buddy.
Is what I believe, but
Sangaviti?
Sangavitae? What do you guys?
That's how we say it down here.
Get you blokes some Sangavitae.
Sandwich of life.
We call it a sanger here in Australia. We're like, got your sanger? Yeah, sweet.
Got your sanger.
Got your sanger, crocky. Why is my Australian invitation so bad? I
was going to say you've got a terrible Australian for an Australian.
Terrible.
Crikey, mate.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Flyman Galar.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, I've lost that a little bit.
Where are we?
Anyways, while we're chatting on the blood of life, do we want to go over the abilities they have? Because I think that's kind of where the bread and butter of this team is.
As in the core faction abilities, the Sangor of the Sangavitae.
The runes of Corn.
Yes, you got the runes of Corn, which is cool. Oh, so go for it.
It's very easy. Yeah,
yes, runes of Corn. I think this is the thing that saves this team in a lot of ways because people were worried. It's like, it's only 8 operatives. It's just going to get shot off the table. Close combat, blah, blah, blah. But the runes of Corn basically means that they can't lose more than 8 wounds in a single shooting activation, which is pretty potent. How do you guys feel about what this does to teams like, what about if it's a Space Marine? Can they still double shoot? And pop their heads off.
Totally.
So it's that one shoot activation, max 8. So Space Marines can still have a bit of sauce against this.
I was going to say, I think this saves you from those teams that have special weapons. So the teams that will run forward with a melter and be like, normally I can guarantee kill this person. It doesn't save you from the elites, which is why elites might be, we'll see how it goes, but elites might be a bit tricky. It effectively makes them goats. Because I
was about to say, it feels very Felgor.
Where it feels quite goaty.
The Space Marines can really hurt you with that because
it's nice.
They put you into frenzy and then finish you off the next one.
It's a weird team where I can almost see maybe you'll have to shift priorities to be targeting operatives that have gone. Because what happens if you target an operative that hasn't gone, you can't kill it if you're a 2 APL model and you're shooting it. You can't kill it. It then activates and has the potential to get back between 2 to 6 wounds almost immediately for free. Well, not for free, but for a blood tank action. And they can still, if you had to get close enough to shoot them on turn when they're maybe hiding, they can then, I don't know. It feels like you might want to almost target operatives that have gone to guarantee that if you are shooting them more than once, you can stop them. Or alternatively try and chip as much damage on them as possible. So, because you only need to get 2 wounds off them to then be able to kill him in 1 round of shooting next time. But that's hard to consistently chip damage 8 operatives, especially 8's almost an elite team. So there's probably not going to be loads of scenarios where they will bunch up enough to give you a blast on maybe more than 2. So yeah, it's an odd one. But it's a real interesting rule that just randomly means that they are immune to alpha strikes to a large degree, which is lovely to be like, well, you can shoot someone, but you're not going to kill anyone in this round of shooting again, unless you got a double shoot thing going on. So yeah, quite nice.
And even then, 10 saves with like, it's just, or it's probably not 10 saves, 10 wounds is a lot to chew through. Like, remember trying to kill commandos and you just bounce off sometimes. Like, sometimes it's hard to get all 10
saves
through.
Come up at those awful times when you're.
They do, man. Like, it's like I feel like I played so many games against Felgore, and it's like so many times they roll a 5 and a 6. It's like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, why is this happening? Like, this is not supposed to happen, and they just roll those 5s and 6s like freaking nut jobs, dude.
Yeah. It's interesting. And now, obviously, they've also got their Gore tanks, which is their nice little backpacks. And this is obviously what carries this Sangua Vitae. And the tanks are either obviously empty, half, or full. All your operatives start with it being half full. And you can, by killing operatives within your control range, you can increase your Gore tanks. So obviously, just doing what you want to do. Bit reminiscent of Rekka and Rekka points, getting in there, killing. And then filling the tank up is very good. And then obviously you can then spend half a tank to use the abilities from the Sanguivite table. And there's a whole bunch of these. You've got Rejuvenate, which lets you heal 2d3 wounds. So as we were just talking about before.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you get 2d3. Again, I'm not going to... A few people were mad in the chat when I was saying to tone these guys down before. I'm not going to say it, but that's a lot. 2d3 is very generous.
I feel like it's problematic because the 2d3 is tough because you can pair that up with the damage reduction in their ploy, which applies to when you're fighting and you're retaliating. So like you're just so many wounds. Like you're for sure on 12 on average, like it probably more. And so that's probably like 12, 14, 15, 16 operative teams sometimes, or wound team. Like that's nuts.
It's a bit of gory tenacity definitely helps in the close combat. We've got Mania, which lets you add an APL. You've got Fury, which lets you perform 2 fight actions. And the second one is free. You've got Rake, which is a really interesting one. The operative finishes moving during that action. You can inflict D3 damage on one enemy operative within its control range. So I think, Rush, you were talking about using this on the charge, doing some raking on the way in to bring some
I mean, it's interesting depending on your break point of combat. Like most of your guys are going to be 4 or 5 damage, and against this specific team it's paired into, that becomes 3-4 because of the whole and they've got they got maybe one operative that's 10 wounds, which if the sermon's not going off, their orator, their confessor is 10 wounds, so it's almost worthwhile trying to do at least 2 damage, so maybe 2 crits can kill. Otherwise, you might not be able to hang in combat with him. So it's scenarios like that where you're like, if I can knock a couple of wounds off, and I think the Night Lords have this with that whole "we have come for you." It just really changes the breakpoints in combat, depending by a couple of depending on your damage and obviously your your opponents, but. Yeah, it can be super useful. And again, it's probably even better to multi-charge wounded guys, because then you can be like, well, I'll charge you both. I'll rake him, maybe kill him, and then fight someone else. And you can fill up your tank killing these things. So it's interesting.
We've also got Surge, which is adding 1 inch to your move, which is hugely, again, another Felgore special. It's amazing how often that can make a big difference in either getting to an objective, getting into more combat, whatever it is. It can be pretty potent.
Yeah. Especially when your move is 7 inches base.
I was going to say, I mean,
going to an 8-inch move is nutty, which also means, fellas, a 10-inch charge. That's a Crude Hound level charge.
That's
what? Oh, man, there's nowhere to hide, dude.
And then lastly, we've got Rage, which lets you add 1 to your your melee attacks, which again, when you guys are already throwing a lot of hands out there, that's pretty potent. I actually think if anything, it's being spoiled for choice with this. Like that's 6, none of them you're ever going to go, I'm never, ever going to use that. Like at the right time, they are all very, very potent. And gives the team a lot of versatility. Again, stops them feeling probably a bit too one trick, or your opponent going, oh, well, I've just got to stop you doing, oh, you got a long charge. Okay, I've just got to be careful about that. There's so much more than that tactically, which is really good.
For sure.
Very cool team.
I think the skill expression of this team will be knowing when to use what. Like, I know we can't keep talking about this team forever, but like the 3 APL, I think people are going to see that and think, oh, I'm going to go 3 APL. I'm going to go 3 APL. When like, honestly, I don't think you need to go 3 APL that many times. Like, I think the double fight is more important.
I was about to say
I think the heal is more important. So you see it and it's like, oh, an 8 operative 3 APL team, but really, I don't think these guys need that 3rd APL as much as you would think upon first viewing.
Yeah, and you need to bear in mind when you're dropping it, it's only until the start of the next activation, so you can't load yourself up ready for a next turn. And the best thing about it is, like you say, is just hold back a little bit, because you can do most of these actions after an action, before or after it performs an action. So you can be like, well, if I can kill him, I'll then shoot. But don't spend it straight away. I mean, if your opponent's horrible, he'll be like, well, you've spent it now. But most people will be like, well, it's okay, you haven't spent it, because charge in, fight. If you don't kill him, don't bother spending it. But you can spend it. I mean, it's nice that it does make it feel like when you're playing this team that you've got loads of stuff to do, because you can do 2 of these things during activation, no more, but you can do 2 things during activation. So you can be like, well, I'll charge, fight, up it, heal, and shoot. You know what I mean? Like, you can do a bunch of maybe you can't shoot and heal because it's after an action. I don't think Sangue Vitae counts, but basically you can do 2 things: heal, charge, fight, 3 APL, then shoot. I mean, you can end up doing like 5 things with your team. It kind of feels kind of nuts, but yeah, it's great.
I really like even, the pseudo Space Marine thing of being able to charge, fight, and then using your wrist chains to then be able to do a super powerful little, nearly its own little plasma, pistol kind of moment, of that super powerful double kills. And all of a sudden that again changes the math of being that 8 model team. Really lets them, they can do some work. I think I was probably a bit not flat. I think at first, when I first saw the models, I was a bit like, they're okay. I was a bit like, they're just kind of jackals. This team's hugely grown on me. One, now I've seen other people's takes on the paint job and the way they're working with the models, but the rules are just very cool. They're very fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Feels
great.
A bit,
I think very cool.
It feels a bit Rattlings and Orcs in the last set. You've got your real heavy tech team, but you've also got these fun punch-on team, but there's actually a little bit of depth to it as well. It's not just, surface fun.
They've got very fun rules out of the 2 teams. I mean, both teams have fun rules, but I think fun is Goremongers. If you want the fun team out of the box, go for the Goremongers. They are a lot funner to use and less like, have I lined up these Zen diagrams of auras, which can be fun for some type of people, but honestly, those people have problems. And I'm kind of one of them, but like I know I've got problems. I'm just like, what I'm waiting for is AR goggles. So that if you can put tabletop simulator, how good that is when you be give me a 6-inch aura on that guy. I want that for this team. So it'd be like, okay, Bob, looking at the table, 6-inch bubble on him, please, and then you can just move them into the bubble. That's what I want. When those come up, which I'm sure someone could make them, then I would be running this team nonstop, because I'd be
imagine having that 6-inch bubble marker around your confessor and trying to move that around the table under the terrain the whole time, as knocking everything over, trying to say, no, it's a really good idea, but I can always see where the markers are now. It's fine. What could possibly go wrong?
Just like crate paper, just underneath.
That's it. All right, well, let's jump in. We might circle back and talk a bit more overview of which of our favorite teams, but let's jump into the Sanctifiers, because we want to make sure we get to have a good chat about them, because they are a very, very interesting team. And again, speaking of, is this a 1-box kill team? Yes, it is, but again, there are still some options within those builds. Obviously, there's a lot of specialists, but there are special weapons. And again, a bit to be said for the regular Joes.
This feels like out of the two, this could be a 2-box team, because if you want to build all the specialists, you've got no preachers, and the preachers are kind of interesting. Like they're decent in combat, decent shooting that gives you blaze, which we'll get into, and they get like benefits from being on objective. I don't know, they're not bad, but also, as you mentioned before, there's options. You've got 2 gunners, one can be a flamer, and the other, basically one's a flamer, and then the other 2 can either be a plasma or a melter. But the way their rules work, because if you're outside of 6 inches, you get severe. Having that with a melter is just so nice.
Right.
But the other thing is you don't have a lot of range on this team, and we'll get into it. It is possibly the fastest team in the game. Like turn 1 charges are back if you want them. Like you can turn 1 charge, but maybe you want some range. I don't know. It's hard. I like the melter, but there's a real argument for both. Preachers. Nothing wrong with the plasma. And the preachers.
Yeah, and I know some people are talking about dropping certain operatives for just more preachers, because preachers on points are always within sermon range.
Yeah, always on the sermon. Yeah.
And they have like 4 attacks on 4s, 4/5 chainsword. It's gonna have ceaseless. It's gonna have ceaseless, and it's gonna have like lethal 5 when you charge. So like, kind of doing a lot of damage, dude. Like that's pretty nutty. So I know some people are talking about dropping operatives for preachers. So maybe not a true 1-box team, but you can pick up some Cawdor, and a lot of people are doing the Cawdor thing to fill in.
I think that's the way.
Very nice. Easy. Yeah, that's a good little easy kit bash. Again there. I
mean, speaking of the models, the preachers have the books on the back. They look class. Like I really wanted to build. I saw them and I was like, I really want to build them. Like the massive books on the back. And I was like, that's such a cool model. But I went all specialists this time, but I can see 100%. I could see a call for the preachers. Yeah, like a couple of preachers, 2 or 3. I don't know, decent amount. But then what are you dropping? Like there's good operatives. You know what I think? I don't know. We're getting too into the woods.
No, like, please go. Get in there. I was thinking, get in those woods.
Do you know what? I wouldn't mind. Let's go. Part of me is like, I don't think you want the Reliquant, because that dude's got your 6 inch. If you kill me, I'm going to shoot you. But the part of me is like the guy that does the double fire, the conflagrator. Yes. I like the dual pistols. I don't mind that. But like his combat's terrible, and the flamer. Like, unless you line up 2 shots, it's just a normal flamer. It's slightly better normal flamer.
Mm-hmm. So I think the way it's worded, you can shoot the same target twice.
Oh, can you? It's up to 2 valid targets. Yeah, shoot this weapon against both of them. I mean, it's suggesting that they're different ones, but it doesn't say no. Yeah.
Select up to 2 valid targets. Yeah, shoot this weapon against both of them.
I don't know how.
That's a classic rules. I
think this is rules as intended. Rules is real
scumbo. But people are going to be shooting Space Marines twice with this. That's what it really comes down to.
Do you think? Well, it depends on if valid target includes, which I'm guessing it doesn't. Unless this target has already been selected as a target. But I'm guessing it doesn't have that. So people are like, well, it's a valid target, and if there's nothing that says you can't target someone that's already been shot at by this operative, it's still a valid target.
Yeah.
It's just I'm selecting them twice. Yeah, that's interesting. In that case, you probably do want to keep.
Yeah.
Because basically you get 2 free shooting with him. So
I think that's the decider, isn't it? It nearly hinges on that rule. If it is shoot the same guy twice, fantastic. If it's not, then I'm with you, Russ. Yeah, it's an interesting. Such a unique team in that sense that I reckon this is one of those ones I've had the most apprehension in terms of locking in who and what to build. A lot of the times when I get a box, I'll just be like, build the specialists, just rule it cool because you want all the specialists and you always that kind of thing. But there's definitely a bit like the Goremongers, there's a lot to be said for the preachers, and even those gunner options. I know people will sit there and be like, just magnetize. These are very small models, okay, and I do not have much skill.
So
I actually did magnetize him. I might play these teams at some point. I actually did, and I never magnetized. Actually, I did magnetize, and I never magnetized. It was absolutely
kick him out, Reese.
It was annoying.
Kick him out.
It was annoying. It wasn't worth it. I do not suggest it, but I did it. So
there you go.
I wish I had.
So let's look at the faction rules. We've got the Ministorum Sermon. So this is the main, I guess, core rule here. And basically in the strategic gambit phase, you've got to select one of your models to be doing the sermon.
We're going to just say it. This is got to be the most verbose team's rules ever written. There's a way of writing this that is just easy. They've not chosen that. They've created a brand new word that doesn't appear in anyone's data set, and it is just so. If your leader's alive, he's got a 6-inch bubble of damage reduction. Yeah. That's the rule. If it's not your leader, you can select someone else, and it's a 3-inch bubble. I'm telling you, there's a paragraph that gives you that information. It's kind of annoying, but that's the rule. Damage reduction, 6 inches from your boss, and it has to be him, or if it's someone else, it's 3 inches. Yeah, that's it. But I say you read it out verbatim. Let's do man read. No.
I'm actually super glad you did that because I was mentally trying to work out.
I say wrap it out for us right now, Reese.
My name is Reese, and I'm here to say no. There's also
attend to the flock in a major
Russ,
way.
You've done a fantastic job there. But yes, basically that's he summed it up. The other rule they've got is blaze. We sort of touched on talking a lot about a lot of the characters. There's lots of fire in this list. If you've seen novitiates, there's a lot of crossover with what this kind of how it works a little bit as well. That basically some weapons on the team have the blaze special rule. If you retain a critical success, you basically add a blaze token to your target. Whenever that operative has one of those tokens and it activates, you inflict D3 damage on it. And then the operative that is controlling that unit then selects one of the following. Roll 1d6 on a 3+, the token's just gone. So if they fail, it means it hangs around. Pretty big. Or they can choose to subtract 1 from their APL to make the token go away. So I'm effectively assuming that's stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. 100%, spend 1 APL to roll around to put the flames out.
It's such a high cost. It's
yeah.
So far, I mean, the thing is, though, you should be getting a bunch of because you only have to retain. It's like stun. You only need to retain a crit. You don't actually have to hit with it. So it's
very nice.
Crazy possible to get. I mean,
and when you look at the amount of units in your team that can potentially get blaze, obviously your preachers have the hand flamers, the reliquant has the hand flamer, one of the missionaries has the flamer. Who else? The Persecutor has it. The Miraculous
he's got the
has
underslung. Yeah, they've all got it pretty much.
The Conflagrator has it. There's a lot of ways to be dealing out a lot of blaze. So, and a lot of people pointed out too with this box set too, you can shoot the Gore mongers, get them down to 8 wounds, and then if they've got a blaze token on the next activation,
and maybe they just die. Yeah,
maybe they just die.
Cool counterplay.
So, yeah. So
the thing is, most of the flamers are like 3/3 as well.
Yes,
which is an insane amount of damage. It's not a 2/2 flamer, which it should be, right? Like the heavy flame.
Now imagine
the heavy flame is 4/4.
Into the dark.
Like
and Into the Dark, it's going to be lethal 5 on Into the Dark.
It's nuts.
That's even more blaze. More blaze.
Yeah,
even more blaze.
Even more blaze. It's kind of
you can't get more than one blaze token, right? Surely.
No, I don't think so.
If they don't already have one, you get it.
If they don't have one, yep. So you can't set them more on fire, is what the rules are basically.
I think that makes sense, isn't it? Oh no, I'm even more on fire. Yeah, I mean, I guess technically you.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Fire. I don't know if you get shot with 2 flamers, I think you're actually more on fire.
That could be double fire for sure.
At least 25% more fire.
Yeah, probably.
Feels like.
Oh, geez. It's also surprising too, looking at this team, they've got quite a few units too with quite a bit of close combat punch. Like again, when you do look at it and you go human team, you kind of always think of classic guardsmen that maybe there's one combat specialist, but they've got some really good stuff. And the Miraculous as well, like with some really interesting limited abilities. What do you guys think?
All of their attacks, 3 attacks, all limited. And then fists, but I think they should have put limited on the fists. I would have loved that. Just limited fists. You got 1 fist. Crap. Broke my wrists, That would have been good, but
I love it.
No.
This is so, number one, thematic, and also, like, I saw people upset about the limited rules on their weapons. Like, how many times is this chick gonna stand her ground and fight? Like, you think you're getting 4 turns out of fighting with her? Come on, dude. Like,
7 wounds, 4
it doesn't matter.
You're hiding,
and you come back to life on 1.
Maybe
that's true.
Yeah, so I think it's awesome. I think it's also very thematic as this sort of, loyalist demon host sort of situation where you're calling upon these powers, in your time of need. Like, dude, just so cool to me. I love it.
Imagine if it was when they came back to life that then also they could pick one of their limited things to come back. That would be pretty cool.
Ooh, roll a dice.
Yeah.
See which one comes back. And maybe you lose another one. If you roll a 1, you lose another one.
Oh, yes. See, risk reward.
No, you just die.
This is old world.
You just die.
I don't want Necromunda here.
You take 1 wound.
You stood up, head explodes, fall back down.
Yeah.
Possibly catch on.
I channeled it. No, you don't. Catch more fire.
Head pops.
What do you guys think of the stratagems? Have you had much chance to look at the strategic ploys, firefight ploys?
Oh,
Any favorites amongst those for this?
So good.
For the Sanctifiers? What have you?
I mean,
Fervent Brawl is like maybe my new favorite
ceaseless
name
if you got
ploy.
the sermon.
Yeah. Fervent Brawl is just a sweet name for a ploy to me, dude. I love that. Yeah. And Ceaseless is like 4 attacks on 4s, Ceaseless 4/5, Lethal 5 perhaps.
Solid.
Like, because you only need to start in the bubble of the sermon to get the benefits from it, right?
Well, being the benefit of the sermon, you only have to have been in the sermon at some point during your activation, basically.
And the preachers, if they're on an objective, get considered in it as well.
And they get the sermon,
Get the sermon.
So that's why the blade's pretty good,
Yeah, I think pretty good.
I'm going to say one of my favorites, like just because it's so useful in making the breakpoints different, is a firefight ploy, the Rosarius. Just a scratch. I mean,
just a scratch.
It's so good. I mean, it's still limited to normals, but it changes the combat against, especially if you're going into someone that's, for example, like good at combat, like a 4/5 chainsword. If you go into the 4/5 chainsword and you're not a space marine, if they can just scratch one of your hits and hit you back instead, that might change the combat. Now they've hit you once and you're going into them once, you're going to hit twice before you've hit them twice. That changes the combat. It's such a good thing. It's almost the threat of it's good enough to have your opponent thinking, I need 3 hits.
Totally.
I need to make sure I've got crits, so I'm going to re-roll. It's a solid thing. It's always going to be useful. I think there's not a scenario in which you don't keep a CP back for this and use it as, when it needed. And you'll need it at least once a turn as soon as you hit combat. Turn 2, 3, and 4, you use this every turn just because it's going to save you and it's going to change the course of an interaction you've got. So for sheer use, Rosarius is kind of up there. If every team had this, it'd be pointless, but it's great. It's annoying to go against, for sure.
I was very happy to see Redeemed Through Fire, which is basically
very cool.
When not operative is with a blaze weapon is incapacitated, basically spitefully each enemy operative visible to and within 2 inches of it gains a blaze token. So I like that because it also matches up because the Goremongers also have effectively a spiteful demise stratagem as well.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Destructive demise, I think it is. Yeah,
I love it. It's so good. Like I'm very big on petty rules like that. Oh, you killed me, did you? Well, you survived with 3 wounds in close combat. Well, this is going to probably finish you off next term, or
blood in your eye.
Yeah,
blood in your eye.
The other one that a lot of people talk about, Rally the Flock.
Oh, good.
People talking about this being one of the fastest teams in town. Which is weird because it's the Goremongers who have the innate 7-inch
the big old funky chicken legs.
Yeah.
There's 2 things that make this team ridiculously fast. I'll cover one. And Ben, you can. I'll cover Rally the Flock, and Ben can take us home with leading the procession. He'll lead the procession on that rule. But rally the flock. So it can't be used in the first turning point. So that's fine. This is going to be a turning point 2 onwards. It's not as great as everyone thinks. You can dash. It's basically a free dash if you're benefiting from the sermon, which, as discussed, is if you're within 6, you'll be using it in the strategic phase. So you've got to be in a bubble already with the orator. If it's your confessor, that's a 6-inch bubble. If it's not, it's a 3-inch. You can't move more than 3 inches. It says excluding the orator. So he doesn't move it. He basically blows a whistle and everyone comes towards him.
Yes.
Yeah. So you basically have to move closer to the orator operative. So I think what happens is when Ben takes us home, brother, with the lead the procession, you'll understand how fast this team would be. But it's a bubble that's moving forward. And I think you're going to use the orator to slingshot to slingshot your operatives forward, just because you can move forward with this guy, and then whatever happens, and then the strategic phase, move everyone else closer to him, and then he can move again, and Ben, he can lead that procession.
So
lead the procession. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version because I don't have my book. Actually, hold on. Let me get my book right here.
I did that intentionally just to.
And so basically hold it up, Reese, so I can read it backwards. So we've got your confessor, who is this big fat daddy, tough, just hunk of meat, unkillable,
makes me so uncomfortable.
basically. Yeah, and so when he moves or charges, is that correct? Those moves or charges?
Full back or reposition.
Correct.
With a fallback, yeah. He can basically tell everybody who's benefiting from the sermon, which is that 6-inch bubble from him, coming from a 32 millimeter base, which is not actually a 6-inch bubble. It's actually bigger than that.
Small pizza.
Yes, can move or charge or fall back with him as long as they end still benefiting from the sermon. So this is the kill team death ball, to where, and here's the funny part, there's no restrictions on, like, normally when that would happen, it'd be like, okay, they can move and charge, but and when they activate, they cannot move and charge. There's nothing about this. There's no restriction. Full stop. So you and all of your little stupid piss babies that follow along with you do a charge and get up 8 inches, and like now you're up in somebody's grill. Like just think about winning initiative here. You win initiative. You rally the flock for 3 inches. You charge for 8, and like you're just everybody is on the opponent's side of the board. You're hugging in combat, so people can't shoot you. Like when you fight, you're gonna have combat, support. So your leader is hitting on 2s, 5 attacks on 2s, 5/5 brutal shock, with just a scratch and a get down, Mr. President. Oh, sorry, pardon me, 4 attacks. And so just like you're beating everything to death. Yeah, you're beating everything to death. Your death ball has just jumped in your opponent's guts, and this is going to be oppressive. Like, basically, here's the counterplay to this, because they can do that turn 1.
Yeah, don't turn up.
Yeah, you can see the counterplay is stay home. It really is stay home. The counterplay is don't leave your deployment zone turn 1. That's the counterplay.
Yeah, because if
you leave your counter zone, they can get you turn 1, which is insane. And it's kind of a bummer that this snuck through, in my opinion. This is the one sort of bummer rule that it breaks the game in a way that I think is not fun at all, because what has turn 1 turned into? No more alpha striking, basically, this edition. And so this is a full-on alpha strike. That's worse. It's the worst alpha strike we've ever seen. Maybe short of something like the Chronomancer or something. Like, this is the new alpha strike, and it's diabolical. So this needs to be fixed, and the bummer is it's not going to get fixed for 6 months. Because it won't get fixed in the first data slate. Well, it'll get fixed in the next one.
There is something about it, though, Ben, because presumably, if whatever happens, the orator somehow gets killed before you've moved all the models, I assume you can't then move all the other models.
That would be crazy, Russ.
Yeah, crazy. Like perhaps if you guarded on him, if you perform the guard action and kill him, it all still happens. It all still happens.
It 100%. And then it even specifies, if he dies, it still happens. They had to specify, because someone was like, should we put that in the rule? They were like, oh, it's probably not going to happen outside of God. You know what? Let's make sure you can still do it even if he dies. It's like, why? Why make it so he can still do it even if he's dead? Anyway,
and you've
crazy.
also got for him too. He's got a bodyguard rule as
Yeah.
well. Like you can spend a CP for unwavering devotion, which means
this dude does not need more.
That risk reward of throwing him up there, as we were saying, he's pretty tough, but he's not unbeatable. There's going to be some close combat opportunities that can. But now you're saying you can charge him up with the assassin, someone else next to him that can take the damage, take the heat.
And on top of that, he has an ability where someone should probably read this out to get it specifically. But like, if you perform an action, is a bubble of 6. If you perform an action within 6 inches of him, he can roll a dice, and on a 3-up, you don't get to perform that action. And if he fails, fail the roll, man, I guess that was just a cool once per game cool ability that you got to use, right? No, if it doesn't go off, you get to keep going. So let's say you move within 6 of somebody, they charge you, you roll it, you fail, they get in. Now it's time to fight, you roll it, pop, you get it, now they can't fight you. And so on top, or a melt-a-gun is like, all right, here I come to break your cover line. Yeah, nope, actually no, you've just moved your ass out into the open field, and now you can't shoot melt-a-gun. Like, you know,
so
now be set ablaze. Yeah,
now,
so like,
now I'm gonna set you on fire.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
and if you're worried,
dude.
If you're worried about, you just put the melter gun out there, so you say, oh no, you can't shoot anymore. You're like, don't worry, I've got counteraction. I can shoot them in the counteraction. I quote, it cannot perform that action during that activation or counteraction. Why? Why?
Yes, it's in there. It's in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my god.
If it's the
Not in my
AP
rule book,
spent
it
on
wasn't.
it,
Yeah,
the
weird,
AP
right?
spent on it isn't refunded. If it's a counteraction, the counteraction ends. You're like, oh, I'm going to fire. Mate, no, I've already told you. No, not going to maybe, you know what? Actually, maybe it means if you do this during someone's counteraction. I think that's what it means.
Oh, maybe. Ooh,
Okay.
I think that's what it means.
I
Because
like
you know
your
what?
version better because it's awful.
Do you know rules is written? What's the worst thing about this? You could move as a space marine and say, I'm going to shoot him. And you go, you're within 6. No, you're not. And then they go, oh, I'll shoot again. It's like, well, technically, you cannot perform this action again, the shoot action, during that activation. So you can't shoot. I think that's terrible. I don't think that's how it's meant to be. But I think this team was missing that final, is that what we mean? Is that what we mean?
Yeah.
Should we print it? I think they missed that step and they're just gone, that seems amazing. Print that.
We've nailed it.
Because it seems like there's a bunch of stuff that should be, you get to try commanding declamation once. It doesn't go off, unlucky. Because it's good. Because the fact that you're not refunding them. I think if you were refunding, you spend it another time, but you can't use it. But the fact that you just
I think that's the kicker, isn't it? Yeah, it's the not refunding. That's so often things might get cancelled out. But it's like you've got to do something else, and that's not doesn't. It hurts, but it's not as bad because you're okay. I ran out to cover, had to shoot. I can't shoot. I can dash back behind something. You know, like like. Oh, okay. No, it didn't work. But being able to lose it as well. I know it's still a dice roll, and I reckon if it was me, I'll probably fail that 3+ dice roll most times, you know. So I'll get to try it 4 times a game. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, like the 3-up is kind of crazy too, right? Like
it's pretty
I feel like better than a 50-50.
I feel like it should be a 4-up.
It should be.
I feel like it should be a 4-up. A 3-up is kind of insane, dude. Like it's wild. He was the most cracked data sheet in this game.
I think out of these two teams, I think we can see when that balanced data slate does drop, one is going to get hit a lot harder than the other. I think there'll be quite and it might not even necessarily be a whole bunch of changes, but clarifications. And I think as we've highlighted a few that it's like this needs an extra line or an extra 2 words to go to make sure people can't take the piss.
I think it was clear this team was written before the balanced data slate because there's an operative that reduces piercing, just negates piercing, whereas now it's piercing crits. So it'd say you wouldn't just get rid of piercing; it would give you piercing crits. So I think it's clear. And there's so for example the Gore mongers from how I read it, you can rejuvenate and then rejuvenate in your counteraction. So you can do 2 rejuvenates, which is not how currently it works. Any healing thing can no longer be done in a counteraction. So I kind of think that's what will
or
happen.
Just can't be. It can only be done maximum once per turning point, I think.
Yeah, so I think the way it's written is
Yeah.
you can't do it more than once per per activation or
Turning
counter
point,
action. So it's kind of like, well, I can do it in my activation at a counter action, but you can't do more than 2 at all during any one time, which seems fair. But I think they'll probably change it so piercing becomes piercing crits instead of just getting rid of it. Stuff like that, stuff like that's already been deemed as too powerful for the game, still exist in these teams. So yeah, I think they'll definitely see nerfs for those reasons alone to bring them in line with the other teams. It's whether or not this other stuff will be, as Reese says, clarified. Like, by the way, if you don't get this, it doesn't keep going. You get 1 try, which seems, I think that seems fair to be like, you get 1 try at this because you're most likely going to get it, and that's the thing. But yeah.
How do you guys feel about day 1 erratas or rule corrections? Because it's happened quite a bit. It happens quite a bit in 40k.
A day 1 patch.
Often, by the time you get the physical codex, because all these books is whatever, like usually they've had to have been written months in advance to obviously get them to the printers, to get them manufactured, to get them in the boxes. So in that process time, as we've just highlighted there, now the game's had all these rules changed to be brought into alignment to be even. So it's obvious this is written 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
Do we feel it's disappointing if, therefore, that the digital rules might come out on the same day as release, but they're corrected? Like those little things that, like, I think it's a good thing because I think it's silly to maybe potentially have to wait 6 months to change a rule we all know is going to change. Like if it's that healing ability, we all know that if every other medic in the game has this rule, we get it that was written 6 months. I don't care if my book's a little bit out of date, but make it that the game doesn't have to be out of date for X amount of time.
Yeah, because those things are different. You're right. Like that's different from like a balanced data slate change. Like those are just like little bringing things in line. And so I'm a fan of that. I don't like the day 1 like balance changes where like you change the stats, but I think something like that would be helpful. Just just to bring things in line. And it's tough. Like you mentioned the piercing crit when I was thinking about that. You still have goats that exist that just for banging the gong you ignore all piercing, and so like there is that sort of. Yeah,
so like they changed that kind of like en masse, but I'm guessing no. Then
yeah, that I guess like I think for Space Marines it's sort of all been sort of changed to the piercing crits thing, but for some teams they allow them to totally ignore piercing. But yeah, I think a day 1 FAQ is pretty helpful.
Yeah, or just rules clarification has said, oh, maybe we've missed that wording. That's changed since. As I said, it's not about not trying to balance because of course you don't know how they're going to go in the real world to put them out there and let everyone play them. But anything that's very obviously, and it's not about going, oh, well, then the book's always useless. It's not. It's just making sure that it's in alignment in that window. And that just means that there's not a period of time where people are like, remember when this thing came out because of shit wording, it was cracked. And everyone hates the team now because they were taking people's lunch money.
I mean, it's hard to tell without lots of tournament like data to know if these teams are going to be cracked. I mean, like reading the rules, I'm like, woof, that's real good. And there's going to be, and I find it annoying when teams would just get rid of someone's ability, like the whole minus piercing. And I know I'm speaking as like the only Vespid player going, but that is my rule. That is my rule. I'm
that's my like one thing.
That's my one thing. I get piercing, and the fact that a team just like no, and it's on an operative that's going to give you a 12-inch bubble of improved save and minus crit, and it's like, well, that hurts. But this team, even if that changed to piercing crits, I don't think Vespid stand up much against this team anyway. But like whatever, like that's not going to change. You're not going to be like, well, now I can take them. But still, it's I don't know. It's hard to know without seeing all the games run out to be like, well, this team is hopeless against elites, because it's still a question that needs to be asked. Can they stand up? Because can either team really hit back against elites, even though elites are it's such a benchmark for a team to be able to stand up to elites. It's really interesting when a team's make it out that you think, I'd love to see, like one of the first things I have is I wonder how they'll do into an elite team, because that seems to be the most teams you see taken that are plurals in tournaments are elite teams still. There's still multiple legionaries, there's still multiple angels of death. like there will be those teams at the tournament. So if you're thinking tournament ready, if this team's gonna do well at tournaments, you kind of have to think, how will they stack up against the elites? And I'd love to see it. And I don't know if the Goremongers healing is good enough, because I think the stuff that's getting healed is better. So 2d3 could be 2 to 6. That's not great unless you're rolling hot. So I could see them being like, you know what? If you might only get 4 wounds back, and then hell, you can make that choice. Do you want to heal again? If you do two lots of one, you only get like 4 over two options of healing. You only get 4 wounds back. It's not too powerful.
Yeah.
Like it just isn't. Yeah. You're a 10 wound operative. You can still get absolutely crumped to bits by
once it's got luck involved.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's not that powerful. D3 is so swingy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this kind of stuff will be. I would like to think they would get rid of anything that just flat out says no piercing, because that is annoying for teams that's their only thing. So I think that should change. But that's me as a Vespid player. Whereas the healing thing, it's a precedent they've set, but it has been set against elites, and they needed rules set against them because they were too good.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not so much a big deal against a mid-elite team. So we'll see.
One thing I'm really happy to see, and I think it's probably one of the first, if only, kill teams I've seen with a significant amount of characters with double chins. Ludicrous.
Finally, some representation. You know what I mean? Finally, some representation. I've been waiting this my whole life.
Finally, people. It happens. You know, even in the 41st millennium, you can have a double chin. I know a lot of people are starving,
but I love chin day.
But I love that it's the ecclesiarchy. You know, with that classic, the church being eaten too much. You know, living the good life.
Friar Tuck. You're all thinking Friar Tuck.
That's it. Yeah. There's a few models just rocking the double chins. I'm just like. Respect. Well done. Not everyone's ripped in the
these are the bad guys.
Yeah, that's
these are the full on bad. Like these guys are up to these guys are up to some bad things.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, like I said, just don't let them find out you're saying that, Ben, because double chins will come for you, okay?
Swallow me up whole.
All right, look, I think double chins is probably the best time to wrap it up. I think we've done a pretty good coverage of what we like about these teams, what we think of this box set. Thank you again to Games Workshop for, of course, sending us out the advanced copies so we could have a play and a test. It's very good being able to get that hands-on with the rules, because it means that I feel like we can talk about it with a little bit more eliteness as opposed to all casualness.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone in the chat. Loved having you in there. Drone, Sandy, Jim,
Bandy,
Echo
baby.
Fiber, Primaris Painter, all our favorites were in there. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us on YouTube too. So great to see the YouTube chat with Robert, Daniel. There was your mum was in there.
My mum.
Stephen Wolf. We had, thank you so much. Dan, Gaming Guardians. Thank you so much, everyone jumping in there. Jack, Jeremy as well. It's great that it's sort of letting a whole nother bunch of people, a lot of people on YouTube were saying, I finally get to catch a live stream, or I finally get to catch this live. So it's cool to see that
it's great.
He's letting other people out there. Thank you, Macasta. Thank you so much. 07's in the chat to all you legends. Thank you.
Ali out there.
DC 07's, double chin salutes.
Double chin 07's. And thank you so much, as always, to Ben from Battle Brothers Tabletop. We love having you here, sir.
Starting off, brother. Was that Boston Ass from what's his name?
What does he say? I don't know. He's a Misa Bombast. No, he says something weird.
That was nearly. She nearly said Shaggy Mr. Bombastic, I think.
Wasn't me.
Thank you to the ever bombastic Russ from GFN Gaming.
I'm just trying to think of the quote. It's a weird. He delivers the line so weird. He's like, "Yous are gonna have to go through the core," or something like that. Something like that. Some of those lines. Anyway, this is getting late, getting sleepy, getting crazy.
Weird.
Thanks. Again, we're started weird, getting weirder. Thanks, Reese.
Weird and weird. Get weird, live weird.
Yeah, weird and weird. Who? 07's in the chat. Love to see everyone. Back to you, Reese, buddy.
Thank you so much. Thanks if you are listening on the podcast too. We really, really appreciate you joining us there. Make sure you've joined the Battle Brothers Tabletop Discord to join in all the chats about all things Kill Team.
You can do that.
That's where we hang out. So make sure you come across, join there. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Still trying to make sure we keep growing that. All the VODs here, the live recordings from this now go straight up there as well. Until next week, we'll have more Kill Team stuff then. See yous.
See ya.
Later.